All right, bear with me 1 second. But anyway, this is the correct link right now. And I'll check these after we close the room and make sure they're correct too. All right, but let's go ahead and get started with the webinar tonight. Thanks, Mindy, for that call too. No, you didn't make a mistake. It actually ended in 081. And evidently, when I saw that, I usually look at the last 3 figures or so just to make sure that I've changed them. But that other one was 4081 instead of 8081. Common mistake, but I should have checked it closer. All right, so we're recording this, so I'll get off of bashing myself too bad. We'll go for the webinar. All right, so first off, I want to show you a couple of charts and the reason that we actually developed the indicators that we did. Okay, because when Charles and I met 10 years ago, we started a little trading room. We were with a company called eSignal. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. And we were literally trading in a room with, a few guys that we had just basically, kind of met online and started trading together. And, this is what we were trading. We were trading 5-minute charts and 1-minute charts. I had a particular software from a company. I won't mention the company's name, especially in a recorded webinar, but, basically it was a trending type of thing. Supposedly if the dots are red, you're short, and if the dots are, blue, you're long. But unfortunately, that didn't mention that you might have had a 45 or 50 tick stop before those things changed. So, we basically learned in the school of hard knocks like a lot of people did, because, before I met Charles back in, guess it was 2009, just right in that area, right? I was basically, I had my own, basically appliance stores, was running those, and I was trading stocks. And I had bought a software because I wanted to start trading, with some good software and everything. And then I got introduced to futures. Okay, futures can really change your life. But one thing I want to basically tell everybody right up front, though, is there is definitely some inherent risk in trading futures. They are fast moving, they are slow moving. They're, by the time you see a trade, sometimes you've missed it if you're looking at other charts. We all run into that. Okay, and even with our good indicators, that's going to happen. Because if you're looking, for instance, at trading oil, like let's say, for instance, you were even trading a minute chart like this, a 5-minute chart, and you drew your trend lines or you boxed it or whatever. You might not be watching Russell or ES or YM or FDAX or whatever else you might be trading. So, what we did is we got away from this type of charts because truthfully, I can't tell you by looking at this what this is really going to do. I know it's kind of heading up right now, but it's still in a downtrend. Is it going to bust up and go? Here's a shorter chart. Is it going to bust up and go? It's kind of trending up, but with our indicators and everything, it really opened it up where you can see it a lot better. Now, what we're going to do tonight, and this is going to get a little bit more basic because I want this to be an actual training webinar to be put on our website for people that come in and they go, what do these indicators mean? What are you doing here? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, first off, let me show you a little screen here. And just to let you know, this is like a paint screen is all this is. This is to show you the exact indicators that I use on my charts in the trading room. Now here in a minute, I'm going to show you other indicators that are not on my charts, but we're going to talk about those in another webinar. But we basically use these 14 indicators right here to trade these charts. Okay, and they make up the Viper charts. Okay, so I'm leaving this on here for anybody that, wants to, click their save screen or something like that if they want to. Okay, but this is the indicators that we put on our charts. Now let's go back to that screen where these two are, and then I'm going to bring another chart up. All right, and this particular chart is going to be what really opened my eyes to trading futures. And that was when we were introduced to range charts. There's a lot of vendors that don't even do range bars. Did you know, for instance, that software company that I mentioned that had the red and blue dots for long and short, they still to this day that I know of now, at least a year ago, they don't do range bars. Okay, they basically base their stuff on minutes, 5 minutes, 10-minute guidance, and all that kind of stuff. Well, by the time you look at a 10-minute guidance chart, you've already missed the trade, you know. Now keep in mind with futures as fast as they are, you got to be right, because even 4 ticks on oil with one contract is a $40 bill, if there was such. It's 220s, right? Okay, but by the time, if you get on the wrong side of a trade, you're going to be down $100 in just a matter of moments if it decides to move, or as much as even, a full stop out like 15 ticks, which would be $150. Okay, so what we did is we took the normal 4-range chart, and we basically, with our programmer, designed all the indicators and everything to look for price action. Everything that we do is absolutely 100%, no repainting, none of that stuff. Guidance is built into it with the, with the Lightning 3 and the Lightning 4, and you can really trade these charts. We do it every day. Will we miss some trades? Absolutely. If I'm watching oil right here and I'm looking, maybe, for instance, this trend line, to give an example. All right, let's say that I wanted to think about trading that right there, as a break of a trend line, to give an example. Okay, then, you can put a nice tight stop on it if you do. Is this going to give us a lot? Is it going to go down to here? Is it going to continue down to here? You don't know at the time. But with lightning indicators, which I'm going to show here in just a few minutes, you can really tell. Now, by looking at this chart, this to me would still be pretty hard to trade. But I think I could trade it, okay, because I've trained myself to see lightning so well, and I think a lot of our people have. But, I'd still rather know, is this a phantom trade? Is this close to a, line 6 trade, a rollover? Is this going to continue up? Is this a green background? That's why we added all that stuff. And to me, it's really good to be able to see the trades and, to be able to get the trades in real time. Okay, so what I'm going to do first off, let's talk about some indicators. Now I'm going to go over some that we don't have in our list, but we're going to talk about those on a different webinar. If you scroll down your indicators to Object Trader, you'll notice that there's a lot of indicators there. Matter of fact, they go all the way down to, well, even further, don't they? Trail stops, let's see, and let's scroll it up one just to see, maybe have another one, yeah, and another one, and another one. Okay, so that's a lot of indicators, right? And we don't use all of these on our charts, but we're going to have a webinar specifically for talking about some of these that we don't actually use on our template, but are great indicators. There's some of our people to this day still use money shade, to give an example. And we're not going to talk about it tonight, but that's actually a trend line type of a line that you can use with Chart Trader. Some people, to give an example, don't have the ability to use Object Trader because they've got a free version of Ninja. If you've got a free version of Ninja, your strategies are grayed out. Okay, so you would have to use something like Money Shade or Chart Trader or a Dome. Okay, so we left that in with our indicators. This is basically one that we've had for years. It's basically Murray Math is what it is. Some people still use it to this day. We've got one called Manager, and we're going to have a separate webinar, and we're going to go over the hidden indicators that we don't really, use in our template, but they are available and they do work. They've grown with us over the last 10 years. Now, one that I do like to use occasionally is this True Trend, but we're not going to talk about it tonight either. We're going to go over strictly the indicators that are on our charts. Okay, and I think that'll take the hour basically to do that. Okay, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in this order either. But let's go with one of the most important ones, and that would be the bar colors. Now, one thing I mentioned recently is that bar colors are no longer part of our normal indicators that we use in our template because they're built into the alerts. To get these alerts to flash and everything, we had to actually build the bar color into the alerts. Okay, you'll see it right there. Okay, so I'm not going to do the alerts right now, but let's just go ahead and do the bar color, because it's really important, the bar color. Now, since I don't have a template, if you ever start to build a chart from scratch and you haven't right-click and set default for something, Ninja always comes up in minute. So if you ever have charts looking different than mine in the room, more than likely you've got it on 1 minute. Okay, so on most of our charts, we're actually looking for range bars, and we're looking for 4 range. Okay, now the bar colors, I personally like to have about an opacity of the 250, intensity of 255, which is like an opacity. Okay, and we're not going to go over some of these others just yet, but since we're doing the alert, let me just go over how we would set it up. Now keep in mind your template will do this to begin with, but if you ever don't have a template or something, this webinar will help. All right, because I like to simply use 4 range on my background. Now this is for the alerts. This has nothing to do with the actual background colors. This is simply the alerts, but I'm going to go ahead and set them. I don't know why Ninja shuts these like that when you try to change things, but they do, and we'll live with it. They don't do that on 8, by the way. All right, we're going to do this one in 4 and 15, and then we'll do this other one in 1 range. See what I mean about closing? That's irritating. And we'll do that in 1 range. So, you know, if you were just building your own template, you can actually do this and then right-click and set that as your default. Okay, now what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to show you the bar colors. But if you are setting your alerts and you're not using our template, you'll want to be sure and set your flash time. The new indicators have signal valid flash time, signal valid text time, and basically your audio valid time. Okay, and even the frequency of the audio in seconds so that you hear an alert sound. Okay, so I'm going to put this on like 480, and then I'm going to right click and set it as default. Okay, and then we just simply put it on our chart. Now, this was the flagship of Viper for many years. You know, for instance, you know, when you get, well, let's say this is pretty much a downtrend, right? So if this was to stair step up and break this trend line, you might get yourself, you know, 8, 10 ticks, right? Okay, so what we did is we designed these bar colors to actually do the breakdowns, the neutral, and then of course the trending. Let's see if we can find a real trending. Been kind of sideways on crude oil a lot. There's a trending right there. Now, wouldn't you just about bet that the indicator that we've got called the mid band would nail that trade, and probably that trade because of the way it's designed? And it really does. Now, this wouldn't have been a bad way to trade, you know, with some of our other indicators, like with trend lines and things like that, because this does kind of tell you which way the trend's going. But we went further than that, and we actually added the background colors. All right, so we're going to put the background on, and you just scroll down to Object Trader Background. And by the way, I use always the MTF files, and that simply means multiple tick frames. Okay, that means that in tick frames, you know, basically you're telling it you want X amount in the size of the bar, because you can choose it. You know, if you want a background that's a 6 range bar, you know, absolutely go for it if you want to. Okay, and now with our template, normally we have like the opacities are already set too, so you're going to have to remember, you know, which is which. If you set your own, you know, basically put your own indicators on, because they default to 50%, but see, that's going to be the same color. So naturally we would have to basically see, let's say 50, 50, probably 20 and 20. I think that's what it is. We'll go ahead and set it for that. And then we'll put our background on. Now this is starting to get a little bit more, you know, to what we're all about. See, this is actually a short background so far, so we might expect some more, turnover. So this is just giving us a little heads up that we might have, short when we break that trend line. And that's the whole idea of this setup right here. The backgrounds, basically your red background, you're looking basically for shorts if the midband is the same. We're going to talk about midband next. All right. Now notice how oil had really been going sideways all night. Notice how our indicators picked that up. The only indicator, or pardon me, the only trade that I like with this color background is that phantom trade. And I'll bet you that's a phantom. And this one right here might be a phantom. I'd have to check it to see, but it's for sure under midband. I can tell by looking at it. Okay, so again, with this background, I'm looking for these phantoms. If this goes blue, then I'm looking for that other background. And we'll show that in just a minute. Okay, so this basically gets you started with the Viper indicators. We use a 4-range chart. We use the background in 4-range. And then we add an indicator on here that basically used to be called the dynamic trend, but so that it would be in line with all the object trader stuff, we basically changed the name of it to power trend. All right. And this has got some different trends built into it if you want to experiment around with this, if you want to. I mean, it's got like trend 3, trend 2, that you can even change the size of the actual region that you're trading to if you want to. Okay, but for all intents and purposes, we use it as defaulted. Okay, bear with me a second, we'll put it on. Now this gets to the heart of the chart, what's really going on. Okay, notice for instance that we basically have yellow bars inside, unfortunately a yellow like here. So I usually change my colors of bars so they show up a little bit better here. You can do that by simply going to your alerts, and that's gold. Yellow might even stand out better, a bright yellow, to give an example. And like I say, we have a template for everything, so we're going to show that in just a minute. All right, that's a little easier to see, isn't it? Okay, so now we basically got a chart, that Viper teaches and trades, but that's not how far we went. Now let me go over. I went over the bars. Basically, your yellow bars are pretty much when it's neutral. Red bars is when they're deeper retracements on a long, and then on the short side of it is more where with red background and everything, you're really downtrending. Okay, but see your blue bars, they're just deeper retracements. Now I would highly recommend getting in the habit of watching for deeper retracements than just midbands. Because see, this didn't make a phantom, but it did, go ahead and get a box in area that you could have gotten a monster trade on. Okay, this one didn't do a phantom and it gave a trade. This one did a phantom and gave a trade. Actually, that's not a phantom. It didn't change the background. Sorry. You have to change the background to get a phantom, but this is a box in trade right here. Okay. Anybody have any questions on it thus far? The power trend is basically a 48 tick area. And from line 0 to line 1 is 6 ticks. From 1 to 2 is 6. Okay, from 2 to 3 is 6. From 3 to 4 is 6. 4 to 5 is 6. 5 to 6 is 6. 6 to 7 and 7 to 8. Those are all 6 tick areas. Okay, which is just basically a little bit over a bar, right? Okay, so the reason that we have this set, because the way range bars work and the way you get that lightning type effect and everything, these have been good settings on this trend for ever since it was developed. It just works. Okay, and we love it that particular way. But again, I want to mention to everybody, don't go chasing trades and always wait for those retraces. Sometimes, you may walk into your trading room and this is doing this and you just go, oh my gosh, I'm going to take this short. And you take it short and then they do that to you. You've got to wait for the retracement. if we were not up at the time or weren't at our computer at the time, the only way you could do this one would be if it broke this and kept on trucking down and didn't give you any grief at all. And it didn't do that. Okay. Now I will chase a trade when it does that. I think everybody knows that. Okay. Because sometimes you just got to jump in. But if you do jump in, you've got to make sure it doesn't retrace against you. Okay. So after this, basically, let me just go back with our template just real quick. I'll load the template. And then we'll go over some of the others. All right, a little easier to see, isn't it? Okay, so we've gone over, the background. Now, keep in mind, when you go from a long type background to a short type background and your midband, you're really looking for shorts, okay? Now, when would you not be looking for shorts? We're not really talking as much about trading today as we're talking about the indicators. But I could tell you this, that if this was to thrust up, retrace, get higher lows, hold some support level, and then shoot up, more than likely you get a long. But right now you're not looking at that. And that's why our indicators are actually saying that you're not looking at it. Would this be a decent little short? Well, we've got a tool called Object Trader, which we're not going to go as much into tonight. This will be more about the indicators. Okay. So we've talked about the bar colors, the yellow and the red. Now keep in mind that the reason we have these bars turn red even in long trades is because we're looking for deeper retracement trades. If this was just yellow, more than likely you wouldn't see the trade as easily, because let's say, for instance, that we had designed the indicator to just stay yellow, and so that would be yellow, that would be yellow, but look how nicely they turn red. Now, could you have taken a short here and gotten a quick 10 ticks? Yes. So you can even see support there. But that is also a phantom trade. Okay, and that's why we turn these indicators, the bars, this color. Now, if it gets out of this color of background and goes to the red background, then more than likely you're looking for shorts. But until it does, you've got to really think about, getting these trades like this. For instance, this trade right here, if you just followed lightning and got out on lightning when it broke it, like at line 6, that would have been about a 30 tick trade or better, maybe 40. Okay. Let's see, Mindy's asking, see the little red box before it broke, would you take that? On which one was it? At what time? Oh, that was in the past. Because I've got the chart kind of moving like that. 56.15. Where did you see that one? Like, would you take this long, to give an example? This phantom? See how that's a phantom type trade? We're going to talk about that for a few minutes, I think, right now. Because very important in how we develop the power trend indicator is that, it's basically gone on what we've taught for years. This just really smoothed it out. I don't know if anybody in the past saw that we used these indicators right here. Let me see if I can find it. The trail stops. Remember these, anybody? Guidance? Like an 8-range guidance chart. Let me show you what we're looking at. We'll take this off in just a second, but I want to show you what we've kind of done. Okay. See how basically this is showing you like guidance type. Notice how it's mimicking a lot of this right here. But you had this years ago where it didn't just keep stair-stepping and then break over. You actually went into a totally different situation, and then you knew where your resistance was. And this was all changed with this trend here. Okay, and it's always been based on that price action. Okay, so I'm going to take that off real quick. Bear with me just a second. All right. Let's go on over to the right of the chart. All right, so keep in mind that the best way to trade and make money, you're going to have to either find the transition trade that actually changes or you're going to pretty much want to trade the trend. Now I like to personally trade the trend because, just to give you an example, if let's say that you were boxing this in at midnight right here, to give an example, let's just say you saw this and you said, well, you know what, that looks like a pretty good area to box. Okay. And then what does it do? It goes ahead and gives you a quick short, but did it stay very long? No. But look at the phantom trade that actually did work. See what I mean? So what I want everybody to get in the habit of doing is, to trust these deeper retracement trades, because a lot of our people make really good money on this. Okay. And it just makes a world of difference in your trading. Phantom trade, 10 ticks at least, another phantom trade, at least 10 or 20, 30. Okay. And they're just all over the place. Does anybody in the room so far not know what a phantom trade is? Let me show you something real quick on the site. If you're not familiar with what a phantom trade is, I'm not going to go over it tonight. I'm going to go over the indicators tonight. But if you'll go to your members area and go down to this area right here, you will see phantom trades explained in detail. Okay, and that's about an 18-minute video, and it goes into exactly how to see the good ones and to not see the bad ones. Okay, and that's how we teach it. Okay, so if anybody wants to know the phantom trades, that's that. All right, so keep in mind that just because you see red bars or just because you see yellow bars does not mean you're changing trends. If you're going to be one of those that really trades in and out, you pretty much got to draw trend lines, because there are trend lines all over these charts. And you can get some good trades and even boxing in, and then you're pretty much not paying as much attention. But I can promise you this, if you get on the wrong side of the trade and they decide to push it, you'll get whacked in a heartbeat. And if you do like 3 contracts, they'll hit you for a $500 bill on oil. So wouldn't it be better to, box in the phantom type trade, box in the phantom type trade, and only go the direction of the trend, because that's the way we designed it. That's still a good trade, even though it did finally change trends. Okay. And Charles talked that one night about the transition trade. You have a thrust down, you have a retrace. You got to break this area, right? Because you don't know, for instance, at that moment, if that's going to head up, but you do have support there and you could take the trade when it shorts. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that so far? Because this, to me, these charts are so critical to watch this midband, to watch your swings, and keep in mind that if you're going to look for real trend changes, you're looking more at Lightning 3. If you're going to look for just minor trend changes, you're going to literally, just draw trend lines, and you might actually, if somebody else was trading this, they might see this and it came down, across there, and they think, wow, it's breaking that trend line, I'll just take it long. You can do that. I mean, did that turn out to be a good trade? Yes. Okay. But if you're going to trade and make money every day, what if this was to decide to continue down instead of up, and you were to go in and they just barely wicked you in and then they rolled over? And that's what they do. Okay. This one just happened to break a trend line, but they don't always do that. Okay. But how about this trend line that's in line with what's actually happening on your chart? I don't know if it did, but let's just see if it did. I'm just curious. I'll fast forward it. There you go. I did a decent trade anyway. Probably a scalp. Not too shabby, right? Could you be ready to trade that trade again if it happened to break another trend line? But remember, see, since it's got this background and everything, until they take out this resistance, you're still pretty much looking to short it, aren't you? Let's see what it did. Yeah, you would have gotten something on that. If you would have shorted here and had your stop here, you didn't get taken out. This was actually right at the open too. This is the one we actually did not take that long, remember, this morning? That was the trade that was called short. But how did we do it? We boxed it, remember? And that's another indicator I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, is boxing them in. Okay, let's see. I don't see any questions on anything thus far. Okay, so what we're going to talk about next, let's talk about the lightning indicator. Okay, bear with me a second. We're going to go through. We talked about the bar color, the background, and the power trend. Okay, now what's important to me after that is pretty much the stealth trend. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, and then your lightning 1, 2, 3, and 4, and your power display. Now, everybody knows, and I get to ask this all the time, power display is just simply lightning 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's adjustable by whatever these are set at. You know, for instance, if you traded lightning 1 MTF and used a 7 range bar instead of a 4, it wouldn't trigger the same as it would with my chart that's a 4. Okay, and it would, the power display is reading these. Okay, now on lightning, what I personally like to do is set my lightning at 4 range, 1 strength, and the alt key. That's for lightning 1. That's just literally a zigzag on 4 range bars. Okay, when you go to lightning 2, you're really looking for 2 strength. So you pretty much got to have 2 bars up and 2 bars down, or you're never going to get a lightning swing. Okay, and then your lightning 3 is your 15 range. That's the trend. We found that to be a really, really good trend, and it's been very successful over the years. Let's see, Brian, the problem with the power meter, it reads the right side of the chart, not, bear with me a second, not necessarily identified swings. That's true. The identified swings you really got to draw the lightning with, because, you know, this is actually more for retrace trades is the reason that it was developed. So that, you know, in an uptrend, to give an example, this would turn red, and in a downtrend, this would turn green, so that when it rolls over, you can get the trade. Yeah. Now, I've talked to people that don't even want power trend on the chart. If you, not power trend, power display. If you don't, just take it out of your, you know, it's just simply indicating what the lightning is at the very moment. Now, in the future, I would like to actually get this to where you could actually tell it you want it to be the identified swing, because the way it is right now, it just simply, if it breaks, you know, a swing, it's going to go ahead and change. See, it just changed green. See it? And more than likely, it's because this broke. Well, it broke this swing right over here to the left at the time, didn't it? Okay. So let's talk real quick about lightning, because this is a good indicator. Let's see, that would be awesome. It could show only, yeah, I've got some ideas on doing that, Brian, and I'd like to actually definitely get that done. All right, so lightning is simply the zigzag effect on the chart. You know, we could have called it a zigzag indicator. I just like the idea of lightning better, because, you know, you're basically just looking at the little thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust. And when you draw it on your chart, you just need to simply hold your hotkey down and left click your mouse. Did I set it on there? Let's see, alt key. There we go. So see that one, for instance, now this wasn't even enough of a trend, even on lightning 1, to do a zigzag there. That's where I've trained my eye to see it, though, and I think everybody else can too. Let me turn this off for just a second. Notice how this thrust up and this bar went down and this bar went up. Now, I would technically like to have lightning draw that, but unfortunately, we're already at 1 strength. It won't draw it, you know, because it just wasn't enough of a pullback. It doesn't see a swing there. It sees 2 bars side by side. Okay. Now, if you were trading this, though, and let's say that you had seen this, and matter of fact, a lot of our people saw this. I even drew the box this morning. I even said if it, you know, we were in a range, if it took out 5608, you're for sure going long. But you could have gone long down here too, okay? Because, right out of the gate when this hit support, if you wanted to draw that little box like that, or even at mid-band, some of our people like mid-band, take the trade. Absolutely. One of the questions I get asked most about when I help support, though, is how do you draw lightning? And it's real easy. And there are 4 different lightnings on your chart. There's lightning 1, which is simply 4 range 1 strength. Lightning 2, which is 4 range 2 strength. Lightning 3, which is actually these text, when you see these numbers right here, that's your lightning 3. If there's a lightning 4 also, you're going to actually see another color. See the white right there and the green? That's a 12 range swing. This is a 12 range swing. That's only a 4 range swing. Same swing, but this picked it up as a 12 range. This is a 4 range swing. This is a 4 range swing. 4 range swing, 4 range swing. And this is not double, by the way. That's lightning right there. All right. Everybody knows that, right? We've got guidance built into our charts because we use the 12 range chart and we use the 4 range with 15 strength. 15 strength simply means that you're gonna cut out a lot of this noise they're making, because on 4 range charts they're very, very noisy. Try it on a 2 range like Charles used on ES for a while. You wouldn't even like trading CL. Okay. But what you want to do is you want to cut out some of that noise. Can you tell when this trend's changing? Absolutely. We draw lines on our charts. Would you actually short this area right here if you saw it breaking? I got it. Like that? Sure. Matter of fact, didn't we box that this morning? I think we did. Okay. All right. So the hotkeys on lightning are simply Alt key for lightning 1, Shift key for lightning 2, Control key for lightning 3, and Backspace key for lightning 4. And to draw any of the lightnings that are the larger lightnings, you have to do one of the numbers. For instance, you can't draw, let me get rid of all this. You can't draw lightning 2 at like this, or lightning 3, pardon me. If I hold the Control key down right here, it's not going to do anything. Okay. Now, it might catch the next swing if you're lucky, but it doesn't always do that. See? Now, that did draw because that was actually a swing, wasn't it? Let me get rid of that. And let's draw it from like here. Now, see, you can actually draw it. A lot of times, if you catch it right on the actual bar, you can still draw it, but that's not a true lightning 3. Your lightning 3 would have been, sorry about that. Your lightning 3 would have been down here. See it? That's your true lightning 3. Okay? So when you're trading like this and you see, that your lightning 3, matter of fact, this hasn't drawn the next lightning 3, right? And it will do it. But it does it when it actually has at least the 15 swing strength. Let's see when it draws it. Just curious. That'll probably be it right there, I'll bet. Maybe not. Maybe up here again. See, it popped up again. Let's see where it draws it. We got this monster trade this morning. I bet it'll be here instead then. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When it gets to the point of no return, it should draw that dot. Let's see when it draws it, just for the fun of it. I bet it'll be right there. Yep, right there. All right, so now let's go over why we developed Lightning 3, though. would you just short this trade if it just took out this swing right here? Because you want to be really careful doing that, because to me, unless you had a higher high, you would not want to do that, because this could easily just be bouncing off a support area, right? Okay. But the whole reason that we did develop Lightning 3 was so that people could, see, for instance, where's support on this trade? Well, it's right here. And with your lightning indicators, you can actually, tell right where it's at, right? Now, if it takes this out, it's a possibility it could change trends. Let's see what it did. Anybody trade oil after the room? I told you it was going to run. It ran like crazy. That was that little mid-band trade that Charles and I took. Remember? 10 ticks. Called it out. All right. Now, is this actually breaking trend just yet? Anybody? Because you do have a phantom, right? You've got a phantom trade setting up. Could you take it? See, that's a phantom trade. Just put your stop underneath the swing. And you got at least 10 ticks. See, that's the whole reason that we designed the indicators like we did, because, this trade right here, to give an example, only stopped out. Notice how it's stair-stepping, and you could have drawn a trend line underneath it. Sure, you'd be out of it now, because I kind of see it right through there, was pretty much taking most of that out, right there on that bar. Okay, now what's it doing? Well, with our indicators that we're teaching today, that's a short, right? See how great the indicators are at letting you know that? Because we went from a long to a mid-band short, and so we're looking for short trades. Now, will this be a monster move to the downside? You don't know. You do draw on your chart, and that comes to another indicator that's on here. That's your drawing tool. Now, this is not our indicator. This is just one that, we basically put in to our repertoire of indicators, because I didn't want people to have to right click and go to drawing tools, or to go up here and go to drawing tools. You've got them right there. Okay, and the way I defaulted it on the toolbar, we don't turn on the markers or the channels. It just makes it to where you don't have this thing going all the way down the side of the screen. And frankly, we mainly use it for lines and fibs, and then removing the lines and stuff. Okay. All right. So that's another indicator that's in the repertoire. Anybody have any questions on Lightning 1, 2, 3, and 4? Because basically what you're looking at on Lightning 1, 2, and 3 anyway is that you want to always be looking for the little swings that it makes. Let me quickly, bear with me 1 second. See if I can find my little lightning indicators. When I've got that blue screen like that, they're not necessarily, they won't show, in other words. Bear with me a second, I'll find them. Maybe. Well, ever since I redid my monitor yesterday, thanks to Windows, I'm not seeing them, but I'll find them later. I'll just draw them manually instead. But what we basically do is we use the indicators to let you know where the next trade is. Okay, how many of you have tried to use like fibs, to give an example? And sometimes they'll retrace 50%, sometimes 38, sometimes 61. By the time you figure it out, they've already run, right? But with our indicators, we're pretty much telling you that this is actually a short, at least for now. Okay? Because this is this color. Okay? And if this was to roll over, you could easily take a short. Let's just see if that works. Not sure, but that's what it's calling for. Just box it in for the fun of it. Let's see. We're not going to use Object Trader tonight. Might be confusing. You are short. Got it. All right, everybody see that? That's why this is so important, because when we use these indicators the way they're designed, you can get some good trades, and train yourself to not just try to make a fortune, because most of the time markets do this garbage right here. You know, but some of the best traders out there, 2 contracts, $200, 2 contracts, $200 or more. See what I mean? So there's $200, there's $200 just on the indicators that we've developed. Okay. Was this a $200 trade that Charles and I called in the room? Remember, we had a line drawn at support. Remember, high, low, higher, high. And we actually nailed this trade. And, you know, if you waited for the 4 bar to close, you might have gotten 7 ticks or 8 ticks. But if you actually took it at the line, or maybe at 20, then you got a full 10 ticks. Okay. Let's see. Richard, you're getting a series of lower highs and breaking swing lows. You're talking about right here. Yeah, basically you had a double top. We even called this double top on crude. I even had a line drawn in the room at resistance. And let's see, must have been 35, because 35 was right over here. And it barely took it out. Yeah, we had it drawn right there. Everybody remember that? Now let's see, just with our indicators, if somebody can pick the next trade. You double bottomed here, right? So are you looking for a long above here? Or are you going to stick with the colors until they actually get a higher low, and then you can get it? Because this is not a higher low. Okay, so let's see what happens here. And we'll see if our indicators catch it. Is that a phantom trade? Anybody? Will it work if you shorted line 6 as close as you could to it? Watch it be a trend change. What's a phantom? There it is. There it is. There it is. That's definitely a good phantom, isn't it? Now, if you think about it, you had a trade here that was $200. You had a trade here that was $200. You had a trade here that was $200, and you had a trade here that was $200. Simply by using our indicators. Okay. Now, how many of these trades went against you? This one box didn't go against you. This one box didn't go against you. This one, taking line 2, period, and when it closes above it, didn't go against you. I like oil if it touches line 2 and bounces it all for a quick to mid band. Okay? Because that can usually be 10 ticks. Plus, if you think about it, let's say that instead you would have just shorted this. Let's say that you saw this was a double top, so you wouldn't really short that. So would you really short even this at the time? Well, then you had a high, a low, a little lower high, but not much. And then, yeah, your background and everything's the wrong color, right? See, that's where so many people get on the wrong side. I even do that myself sometimes, and I know Charles does too. And when you do, you want to kick yourself because you find out that it was a phantom trade instead. Now, did it actually change trends? Yes. But when did it change trends? Thrust, retrace. What if it decides to change trends again? Let's see if we can catch it with our indicators. All right, we already got our phantom, so we're not looking for another phantom, unless you want to actually, if it happens to go up and kiss line 7 and then roll over, let's see if it does. There you go. That's a line 7 phantom. Let's see if it works. We're boxed. And you got another one. Everybody see that? Okay. Now, so far you got a double bottom. You've got a phantom that worked, another phantom that worked, just by judging our indicators. Now, we do have a particular trade that we teach. If this doesn't take out this low here, if we somehow get a higher low, you can actually box these things in. Let's see if that materializes or if they go down. Now, to me, this is one of the riskier trades right here. See this 5609 area right here? See where it's taken that out with a little box? See there? That's a higher low. That's what it did after we closed the room down, by the way. I nailed that trade earlier today on one of my other Top Step accounts. And it came down right here to this mid band, right here. Now look how our stuff catches this thing. See how beautiful that was? That was just a gorgeous trade, wasn't it? Okay, so if a person was to look at this and see that you could easily try to get as close to mid-band as you can, but always let it at least come to a predictor where you can box it in, okay? And, you know, keep in mind when you box it in, there's always that chance that they will go against you a little bit. Let's say that you box this in right here to give an example. At the time, that's what you saw, right? Let's just pretend you were seeing it right here like this. All right, you're not going short. You might have gone long right there, right? Your stop's underneath the wick. Does it take it out? Not really. It didn't close below it. Okay, but you did feel some heat. Now, usually when I see a trade like that, if it went up and the next bar goes down, I kill it. I don't trust that because I know it's coming down here again. Okay, but then you could box it in again too. Or if you don't want to kill it, you got to trust the box. Okay. All right. Let's see if our indicators will catch another one. Now, don't look at your charts or anything, and tell me if our indicators can very possibly catch a trade here. Let's see if we can get something. If I was just walking into my trading room, I'd draw me a trend line like that. All right. That's off of our indicator called the toolbar. And let's see if anything sets up. You've also got a swing right down there. I'd box it in right there. And you just got long. You got another one added. Put your stop underneath mid-band. Everybody see how great these indicators are? Now, what would you have seen on a 5-minute chart on that? Probably not much, right? And that's the whole idea of why we design these indicators like this. Notice how, you know, rather than just boxing in, like here to give an example, let's say that you would have boxed in here instead, okay? But I like to have at least a thrust retrace so that I'm at least getting an AB so that I can draw a trend line, okay? Because if you draw this trend line too tight, like this right here to give an, it's not a trend line, sorry. If you drew this trend line like right here in real time, this type of a trend line will normally bite you because it didn't do any kind of a retracement. That's actually a thrust down and a little retracement, right? Probably about 38% or so, and then they go down a little bit deeper. But I find that if you'll wait to draw your trend lines, that you're better off doing that. I think that's on an indicator. All right, but see this one right here to give an example. Thrust down, little retrace, and then draw your trend line. Would this have been a better trade for you? Across there, and you would have never entered here because you wouldn't have gone in this box. Now, if you had done that instead, like I said, if I go up out of a box and then right back in, I'll kill it. And I'll usually only, you know, dip the toe to begin with until I see that they're actually starting to stair step. Would you take the bounce off mid-band with light color background? No. Not normally. Now, this one here, you mean? A box in, I would. Like this right here. At the time, let's say that you would have shorted this at predictor, and then you're seeing this happen in real time. You've got resistance over here to the left. You got resistance right here at 28 also. like so. Draw your lines on your charts. Oh, come on, draw. All right. And they break up above that resistance. That's a good box. Now, this is what's called a transition trade. Okay. Now, if this would have kissed resistance and rolled over and taken this out, you would have never taken that trade to begin with. Could you have actually boxed this in here? But see, you were already short here, so this took you out of your short. Okay. Now, if you don't like the transition trade, you've got to wait for this trade. I don't care if it goes up 50 ticks. You got to wait for that one. Okay. Because this particular trade right here was a monster, but you had to have traded it like we taught, and you would have had to gone against. But keep in mind, you had a double bottom too. You know, a lot of times when you get those double bottoms, they'll take out resistance, they'll come and kiss it as support, and then off they go. Okay, let's see what indicators. We're running almost out of time. I kind of knew we would. Okay, so we went over lightning 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'll go over it one more time just real quick, just so everybody knows the hotkeys. Backspace, Control key, Lightning 2 is Shift, and Lightning 1 is Alt. Okay, and you can make it come on the chart as fast as it can disappear also. Let me just draw Lightning 2. Let me get rid of Lightning 3. And we'll get rid of the lines. All right, let's say that you were looking at this trade right here. And you said, okay, I'm going to draw my lightning. So you draw lightning 1 is right there. Okay. Now, where's resistance on lightning 1? Well, it's right here. So could you actually box it above that instead, and you wouldn't get wicked into it? See how that one wouldn't have gotten you into it? Okay. Now this one would have, and you would have still felt some heat. That's going to happen, but it didn't take out support. And again, if you get in a trade and it goes against you and you want to get out, you can always save face and, you know, just not let it go against you. Okay. So to get rid of lightning 1 is simply the same thing. Hold the Alt key down, left click your mouse, and that's it. To make it appear like lightning 2, Shift key, left click your mouse. And see, you can tell right now, as a matter of fact, where this is as far as what's going on. Would you, for instance, if you saw this happening, ABC pulls back, doesn't take out the swing, is it going to continue heading up? Well, lightning will pretty much tell you. Let's see when it gives up the ghost just for the fun. That's lightning 3, or 2, I mean. Wow. That's at 3:30, so obviously you would have been out of the trade before 3:10 anyway, so roughly in through here. Okay, so we talked about lightning 2, 1, 3, and 4. And let's see. I've got a full webinar on the alerts, so we won't go over that. We talked about the background. The HZ lines, that's just simply on our horizontal line. We simply put the numbers on it. Somebody gave me that horizontal line a few years ago, and I really like it because you can move the line and it stays with the pricing. It's just built into the code. You know, that's not our indicator, and we never even acted like it was. Okay, but I like it because it really tells you where, you know, your lines, when you put them under support and resistance, you can really see it real quickly that that's what it is. So that's the HZ lines. Let's see here. So we went over the alert, background, HZ lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, the power display is just a representation of lightning. And I think I'm going to take Brian's advice and get lightning, the display, where it actually has to identify the swing. That'll just take a little algorithm to add to it. Okay. We went over power trend. All right. That's simply the bands. And the only thing we didn't get tonight so far is predictor and the swing high low. I'll go over it real quick and then we'll wrap. Swing high low is one of Charles's favorite indicators, because what it does is when it makes a swing, it draws these dots. Okay, and you can kind of see these dots on the chart in real time. Okay, and that's where those swing high lows are. And that's all it's doing. It's just kind of looking at, you know, when it thrusts and makes a swing, it draws these dots. And until it takes out that swing, basically it would keep drawing those dots, but it took it out right there, didn't it? Okay. A lot of times he uses that as a stop. Okay, that's your swing high low. And of course, we all know what predictors are, but we'll go ahead and cover that next time around. And also on the next webinar, we're going to talk about these other indicators here that we don't use all the time. Okay, like the fibs, to give an example, the long-term and swings minor. I don't know if anybody uses those, but those are pretty cool too. They've got little ellipses that draw, and they draw on lightning is what they do. All right, so we'll talk about some of that next week, but keep in mind, if you keep your charts exactly like Charles and I keep our charts with the template that's on the website, you're going to always have this ability to get these trades. Because when you're looking at these trades, be sure and draw trend lines and draw boxes. Look to the left to see the right. You'll see the support areas. You know, did this come down almost to that area within a tick or so? You know, and that's what you got to look at, is what they haven't checked yet. But this isn't about trading as much as actually seeing the indicators in real time. Okay, so I ran over about 3 minutes and we didn't get through all the indicators, but they actually work. They're great. And in 2 hours, we're in that room, keep in mind that there's not necessarily a lot of stuff's going to happen. You know, we open that room at basically 8 a.m. and we close that room at 10, which is going to be over here. And see, that's all oil did before we closed today. That right there. But did we get this trade? Yes. Did we get this trade? Yes. Did we get this trade? It was called the Phantom. And then this trade was after the room closed, if somebody got that. But see, that's what you've always got to look at, because everybody gets to the point where you see a big chart and you think, wow, I could get in here and I could get out here. But this is all oil did all morning. And if you saw it before we even opened the room, they had that same support level. So basically, this was your box all morning. And then look what they did after we closed. Okay? That's why I said I was going to trade this afternoon, because I knew the way they were chopping around here, they were going to do it. But they still gave phantom trades and they still gave monster longs. And our software will catch it. It catches the phantom, right background color, catches the midband, right background color, right midband color, and then trend lines and everything else will get you in the trades. Okay? I know this was a little bit more basic, and the reason that I did this was because I want to put it on the website as a training, because we get a lot of people that will ask, you know, well, why are you going long on a red bar? Because it's just a deeper retracement. We want those. Notice that with the algorithm, see how that's a yellow bar right there, but that's a red one, and it still kept the same, basically within a tick. That's just the algorithms of the way this actually works for us. You know, because if you think about it, that's really just a yellow bar that turned red. But they pushed it a little quicker so our algorithm catches it and turns it red. And it doesn't repaint. It'll never turn yellow again. Okay? Hope everybody enjoyed this. Thanks for coming to the webinar. And we'll talk about some of those other indicators next week. And tomorrow in the room, keep in mind there's oil inventory on Wednesday, and we'll just watch and see what happens. Unfortunately, the market moved already. It'll probably go sideways at least tonight. Okay, but was that a phantom type trade? Yeah, but I don't trade this time of day. But that was pretty close to a phantom trade anyway. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great evening, and we will see you in the trading room tomorrow morning. Bye everyone. Thanks.